Hello viewers, in this tutorial we'll be discussing absolute value and distance. So we'll just start with definition. What do we mean by absolute value? So for example, we'll say let what A be an element of R. So we'll say A is in R. So when I write R this way, we mean that what R is the set of real number. So what does that mean? It means we have three choices. Means A could be positive, A could be negative, and A could be zero. So absolute value of A is what? It's simply given by this definition. Absolute value of A is A if your A is a non-negative, or it is minus A if A is less than zero. So this is the definition of absolute value of A. So the absolute value of A is just A if your A is greater than 0 or A is 0. So this same definition, we can write it this way. We can say absolute value of A, it's what? It's A, right? If A is greater than 0. And we can say it is 0 if A is actually 0, or minus A if A is less than what? 0. So these three definitions are the same. Two definitions are the same. So because right here you can see there is equality. So it means if A is 0, absolute value of A is just going to be 0. For example, if I have absolute value of 3, so in this case, what is A? A is 3. And since A is positive, then we are in this situation. Then our answer will just be A, which is just 3. Then if we take 0, absolute value of 0 is just what? 0. But if we take absolute value of minus 3, so it means we are in this situation. So since our A, this is A in this case, A is minus 3. So based on this definition, this is going to be what? It's going to be minus A. So we'll have, it's minus here. So it's going to be minus 3, which is still 3. All right. So let's see some properties of absolute value. The first property we will see is that absolute value of A is always non-negative. This means what? Non-negative. When we say it's greater than 0, we mean it is non-negative. So for example, it means the output can never be negative. It's always positive. For example, if you take up, even if you take a negative number, what is the absolute value of this? You see, it's 3. And you see that 3 is non-negative. 3 is positive. So if you take, let's say 3, you will still get 3. So the smallest it can ever be is 0. So that is why we say it's greater or equals to 0. And that is when your A is 0. So the output, once you take an absolute value of a number, the result, it can never be negative. It's either positive or 0. So that is why we said it is non-negative. Then the second property here is that what? If you have absolute value of A, it's the same thing as absolute value of minus A, right? For example, if you take absolute value of 5, it's still the same thing as absolute value of minus 5. The result will be 5. Property number 3, if you have absolute value of A times B, AB, you can distribute the absolute value so that you have absolute value of A times absolute value of B. For example, if you have absolute value of minus 2 times 5, you can write it as absolute value of 2 minus 2 times what? Absolute value of 5. Property number 4 is if you have a division, absolute value of A divided by B You can also write it as absolute value of A divided by absolute value of B. For instance, if you have 12 over minus 3, all in absolute value, we can split this to be absolute value of 12 over absolute value of 3 minus 3. Then number 5, absolute value of A plus B. This will always be less than equals to absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. For example, if you have 2 absolute value of minus 2 plus 5, definitely you will have is less than equals to absolute value of minus 2 plus absolute value of minus 5. And you can check this side, minus 2 plus 5 will give you 3. So here actually will become absolute value of 3. And here, what do you have? Absolute value of minus 2 using this property is the same thing as absolute value of 2, and this is absolute value of 5. So here you will have 2 plus 5, which is 7, but here you will have 3, and it's true that 3 is less than what? 7. We satisfy this inequality. All right. So the next one I will just add here, we'll talk much about it, we'll talk about it later, is that absolute value of A minus B is the same thing as absolute value of B minus A. For example, if you have absolute value of 2 minus 5, it's the same thing as what? Absolute value of 5 minus 2. So these are some properties of the absolute value function, the absolute value. So now let's just take a few examples here, how we can write expressions, how we can deal with absolute value expressions. So take a look at this question. You have a condition here that x is between 0 and 1. So we want to write this expression in such a way that we will no longer have the absolute value. So the procedure here is simple. All you need to do is you just take a number here. Take any x between 0 and 1. For example, you can take x to be, let's say, half. So let's change the pen here. Okay, so you can take x to be 1 over 2. And what do you do with this 1 over 2? You want to use this value to check what is the quantity, the sign or the sign of the quantity inside the absolute value. So here, let's start from here. We're dealing with this. If x is half, it means that this x is going to be positive. For example, if you take half, so it means this is going to be positive. But if you come here, half minus 2 definitely is going to be negative, right? So this is positive, this is negative. Then if you put here x here, 5 plus half is also going to be what? It's going to be positive. So what do we do now? We will use our definition. Now, because this is positive, see this as your A. It means the quantity inside the absolute value is positive. And remember, by definition, if you have absolute value of A, as long as this quantity is positive, your answer will just be A, right? Remember this? Because this means A is greater or equals to 0. So since the quantity here is positive, it will just be A. So this will come out as A. So we'll just have 5 plus X, which is our A. Then plus, let's leave the bigger absolute value because here you see we have a bigger absolute value. So just let's leave this. Now we still have minus 2x plus what? Plus 2 divided by what? Here also the x here, since the x here is positive, we can just bring out x, right, without any negative because the quantity inside this, I'm dealing with this absolute value now. But if you look at this absolute value, so let me bring this plus. You see here there is plus here, so let me put this plus here. Now, if you look here now, this is x minus 2. X minus 2 is what? Is negative by quantity. So remember, If the quantity here is negative, then we will have minus a because a is less than 0. So in this case, you see x minus 2 as a. But this a is negative because we have, if you put half here, you have half minus 2, which is negative number. So it means we have to bring that minus down, which is this minus. Then you have your bracket, which you put your a, which is x minus 2. So here, this will remain as, you just need to simplify. This is 5 plus x plus, now we have minus 2x plus 2 over, this will be x. This is plus minus, which definitely will become minus. So you'll have minus x minus 2, right? So we go one more. So this is 5 plus x plus, this is minus 2x plus 2 over what? This x will become x minus x, then plus 2 because of this minus. So you see this will cancel this. Then what is left is just going to be 5 plus x plus, here is just 2, so we'll have absolute value of minus 2x plus 2 over what? Over 2, right? And what did we say about the properties? This we can write as 5 plus x plus, and I told you before that anytime you divide, you can write this as 2x plus 2 over what? Absolute value of 2. This is one property of absolute value, right? Okay. Now, don't forget that we are still using this condition has not changed. So we are still saying that x is between what? X is between 0 and 1. So we took x to be half. So we're still going to use that half because here we still have another absolute value. Here is not a problem because absolute value of 2 is 2. So we can remove this one. So this is just 2. So if you substitute x equals to half here, what do you get? We'll get 2 times half plus 2, right? Plus 2, this is what we will have. And you see that this will cancel this. So you have minus 1 plus 2. And what is minus 1 plus 2? Minus 1 plus 2 is positive. So it means that this quantity here is positive, right? Because we just substituted half, as you can see. So since this is positive, and to remove the absolute value, we don't need to do anything. So it will just be, we'll just bring this value down just the way it is, which is going to be minus 2x plus what? Plus 2, all divided by 2, right? So here it's going to be 5 plus x. And this, what can we do here? We can cancel out actually this plus minus. We can take minus 2 out so that this will become x minus 1. Yes, do it. If you multiply this times this, you will back to minus 2. Minus 2 times minus 1, you'll be back to plus x. But don't forget, we are still dividing here by 2. So this 2 will go with this 2. So we're left with 5 plus x minus, don't forget, we still have this. So here will be 5 plus x minus x plus 1. Is that okay? And finally, what is the answer? X will cancel x. You just have 5 plus 1, which is what? Which is 6. So the answer to this will be D is the correct answer. Okay, so here you can try to make it faster, but it's fine. I try to follow a lot of steps here. Number 2. Number 2 is similar. Use the same condition, but here you have to see that what is x? X is what? Is any number between minus infinity and minus 1. So you can take any number here as your test point. So for example, you can take a number less than -1. You can take -2, right? So let's take x to be -2. Okay. So if you put -2 here, you have 2 times -2, which is -4. So we know that this quantity is minus. If you put -2 here, you will have -4 times -2 is going to be 8. So this quantity is plus. If you use -2, this is going to be minus. So we know this. So now we know the sign of all the quantities under the what? The absolute value. So now we use the definition of an absolute value. Since this is minus here, then it means this minus have to come down. So it's going to be -2x plus. Now here is plus. Since it's plus, then we're just going to bring out our a, which is just -4x. So you see here, we are not bringing any minus down. This positive here is coming from here, right? Then plus. Now look at this. This is x is negative here. Since it's negative, it's going to turn to -x. Then over what? Over x. I hope this is clear. So let me just change this pen. This one's to here. This plus is coming from here. And this plus also has to do with what? This one. So this minus here is because the x here is negative. The x inside the absolute value is negative. So this minus have to come down here. All right, now I think we're just done. We just need to simplify. This will be -2x. Plus minus is still minus, so this is -4x. And this will be plus. X and x will go, so it's just -1. And this is -2x minus 4x will be -6x. Plus minus is minus. So the answer should be A. Okay. So now let's talk about something different, which is called distance. So distance, what is distance? Actually, absolute value of A can also be viewed as a what? As a distance. Remember, we said absolute value of A is just what? A if A is greater than 0 and it's minus A if A is less than 0. So if you have a point, let's say 0, and you have A, and here you have what? Minus A. What is the distance from here to here? The distance has to be always positive, right? Or 0. The distance from here to here is what? Is A. The distance from here to from 0 to minus A is also what? A. So we can view absolute value as just the distance between A and the point 0. So this is an absolute value. So absolute value is just the distance between of absolute value of A simply means the distance between A and what? 0. So it could be this one, it could be this, it's still the same. So now let's make it more general. Let's make it more general now. So what do I mean by more general? Let's A and B. Let A and B be what? Two numbers, or let's say 2 points, right? We can say points on the real line. When I say real line, I mean what? I mean the real number. So the distance between A and B, it's simply the absolute value of A minus B, which is still the same thing as the absolute value of B minus A. So for example, if we have this now, this is 0, and now let's say this is -1, and this is 2. So if we want to find the distance here between this and this, what will be the distance? We know that the distance between -1 and 1 will be 1. The distance between 0 and 2 is going to be 2. So the total distance here will be what? Will be 3, right? So the total distance here is going to be between these two numbers is just going to be 3. And you can see that, how do we get that? The distance, based on this definition now, you see the distance between -1 and what? And 2. It's simply absolute value of A, which is -1, minus B, which is 2, right? What is this going to give us? This is going to give us absolute value of -3. And what is absolute value of -3? Which is just 3. Okay? Or if we use the other definition, that is B minus A. So I use this here. If we use B minus A, it means that B is going to be -2. Sorry, B is 2. So it would be 2 minus -1, right? Which is still going to be the distance between, which will just be 2 plus 1, which is going to be this absolute value of 3, which is 3. So you see that either way, you will get the same distance, right? So if we want to find the distance between 2 points on a real line or in a number line, we just use the absolute value. Okay. So finally, look at this example here. It says find the distance between 2 points whose coordinates on the line are -pi and 3. So just for we can try to illustrate this on a number line. If this is our number line, let's say this is 0, 3, we're going to be somewhere here. Sure. And if 3 is this, so here is going to be -3, right? -3. But we're interested in -pi. Remember, -pi is going to be somewhere here because we know -pi is less than -3, because -pi will be -3.14 something something. So now we are interested in the distance between this -pi and what? And 3. So we need the distance between -pi and what? And 3. So let's use the definition. Remember, the distance between what? -pi and what? And 3. We can use anyone. Is going to be absolute value of what? A minus B. So you can say -pi, right? Then minus what? 3. So this is the one we're using. So you can use anyone. And this also should be the same thing as what? 3 minus pi. We should arrive at the same thing, yeah. So if we use this one, so let's use this one only. This one we are using what? We are using the first formula, A minus what? A minus B, this one. So this is going to be what? -pi minus 3, right? So this is by definition. So let's just stop here. This is by definition, -pi minus 3. But now we need to see if we can remove the absolute value. We know that -pi minus 3 is a what? Is a negative number, because -pi is -3.14 something, minus 3. So this would be about -6 point. So it's a negative number. And based on our definition of absolute value, we can remove the absolute value by what? By bringing down negative. So it will be minus, then you will have -pi minus 3, right? -3. And what is going to be that? What is the final answer? This is just going to be minus is going to be plus here. So minus will become pi. Then minus is going to be plus what? Plus 3. So the final answer will be pi plus what? Plus 3. It's the final answer. And that is B. So I hope this tutorial is clear. If you have any comments, you're welcome to put it in the comment section. Thank you for watching.